music exists in the cosmic place all around us. And it sits there, it lives there, and it awaits extraction for us to pull from it and turn it into something new, give it life. And sometimes two people might even grab the same idea at the same time, and that's how we wind up with duplicates. So that's how I believe that music and all art is meant to be created. I think it can be created in other ways. And usually what happens, that result from not pulling from that cosmic place, it sounds great, it's polished, but there's something missing. Perhaps a soul, perhaps heart, perhaps feeling. It could be polished, it could be perfect, it could sound amazing, but you can always tell when it was created by using tools such as, or texts such as music theory. I guess my problem with music theory is when it's used to create music. I think music theory is a good way to explain music, highlight its patterns. Why does it, like, this sounds good, why does it sound good? And just see how it's all connected, and that is like the greatest part of music theory. But when you start using music theory to create songs as a shortcut to become inspired, to put stuff together, I think that is a detriment to the arts, because you're not pulling from that cosmic place. You are instead figuring out a math problem. Now, music is very much about math and patterns. It's one of the things I love about it. But there's something a little bit more supernatural, a little bit more cosmic about it that I think we have forgotten the more and more that technology has evolved, but also just focusing in on how to crack the code, you know, going about it in the same way we go about so many other things that are taught. When it's just different, it's just something, it's just more supernatural. It's just not as cold and calculated as that. At least it shouldn't be. It should be more about a feeling. And also it should be more about like an unexplainable thing. Like this came from an unexplainable place. Why does it exist? Can I take sole credit for this? Or is there some other force at play? I believe in the latter. If we're ever going to get away from the impending doom of AI and what it means for the arts in general, then we need to go back to that cosmic place. We need to go back to that cosmic place so that everything stops sounding so polished and the same. It all sounds very similar, and it's all about striving for perfection and figuring out how to get there, because it's all a math problem. It's all, we can crack the code. And man, art is just not that. Art is so much bigger than that. It is not about us. It is not even about our brains. Our brains are involved. We put it together, but the less that we are involved, whether we involve our brains in the process, the better the final product will be. We need to stop mucking around with it as much as we do. I think it's important to learn certain things and to have tools in your toolbox, but then it's also important to forget what you've learned and just to try to act like a novice, like you're inexperienced and you're a layman with all of it. You just, you're a newbie. You don't know. You've never done this before. Every time you sit down to do it, you've never done this before. Teach me. Always come at it from that place. Teach me. I'm willing to learn. I am your servant. Let's do this together. You and the cosmic place. When I was first starting out, I was given the smallest bit of advice that really helped me and got me started. It was a little bit about scales. It was a little bit about which chords sounded the best together. And as a budding songwriter, it really helped me greatly, and I was grateful to have that, to get that advice, that knowledge. But then after that, I just allowed my creative brain, or whatever you want to say, like creative being, to grow and to evolve on its own naturally. And then I was able to develop my own voice and my own style, my own process, and I think that's very important. Sometimes too much information, too much knowledge can hurt an artist, can transform an artist into a carbon copy of something else, and rob him or her of their potential identity that they could have. So sometimes it's best to not muck too much with the creative self, the creative brain when it's growing in those early stages. I have gone out of my way to make sure that I'm not learning too much about music, because I don't really believe that anyone needs any knowledge to create music. You just need to open yourself up to that cosmic place, to be able to become a vessel and just be able to access it, access those ideas, access that place. That's what you should be putting your energy and your time into. How do I open myself up to this? How do I become this vessel? How do I humble myself enough to realize that this is not me? This is that I am a vessel. I am creating this, but without the help of all that's around me, I am nothing. And I can create something, sure, but it's going to be a carbon copy. It's going to be very mathematical. It's going to lack heart and soul. And it's not going to be very interesting, especially when we get to a place, which we're already there basically, where there's so much that sounds the same, so much that strives to be perfect and polished. There's no personality in a lot of this music. Like, think about the music that used to be made. You know, flawed vocals, flawed instrumentals with missed notes, ugliness, imperfectness. People making music didn't know what the hell they were doing, yet they were doing it, weren't they? And that shit's considered classic now. That shit's like, wow, why does this sound this way? Well, I'll tell you why, because they were doing it differently back then. A lot different. And they had a lot less of the tools that we have now. Like I said, there's good in having the extra tools. There's good in knowledge. You just have to know how to use it. And make sure you don't use it too much, like drinking too much or eating too much or whatever it is. It's just too much of a good thing can become a bad thing really quick, very quickly, you know?